On Sunday, Arsenal will play one of their biggest games of the season, going away to fierce rivals Tottenham Hotspur. Now, while Tottenham do play a very different system to a lot of teams Arsenal play, and Arsenal have clear injury issues around the pitch, in this video we're going to look at how Arsenal could go about setting up to beat Tottenham within this game. So let's get into it. Now, it has been confirmed that Odegaard looks to be out for a few weeks now and will not be there for the Man City and Tottenham games, more importantly. Now, while a lot of people have very different opinions on Odegaard, he is the captain, he is the main trigger for the press, and he is one of the most important players in Arsenal's team, so it will be a massive miss. However, Mikel Arteta, when has been forced in the past, has changed things up for the better for Arsenal, which we saw at the end of last year as well, and this could be another great time to give an opportunity to other players and a different system to evolve. However, he may also revert to some of his common practices, at least to start the game off. Now, before we get into Arsenal, let's have a quick few minutes where we talk about Tottenham Hotspur. Now, to start the season off, they have definitely been the most high pressing intensity team in the league. As you can see by this metric, compared to anyone else in the league, they have pressed very hard on the other team and had their team very much high up the pitch, having a very high line. Now, while obviously this gives them a lot more control on the game, they got highly criticised for this high line with their late goal against Newcastle that they conceded. However, the high line isn't necessarily the issue in this circumstance. Going into the goal against Newcastle, for example, you can see here that the line is very much on the halfway line. The Spurs line is stepping up because Newcastle are moving the ball backwards and they are trying to get around to that halfway line, catching the players offside. Something very interesting about how Tottenham play compared to other teams is when there is a pass forward from a goalkeeper to a midfield player, and here it gets worked into Joelinton in midfield for Newcastle, a lot of teams would start backing off already. This would be the trigger for the centre backs and the full backs to move backwards to try and make sure that they're not getting any runners across. However, Spurs do not do this. They rely on Maddison in this situation to press down Joelinton, and the defence hold their line, mostly being in the Newcastle half. Now, of course, in these situations, you need to be very assured that your line is going to be close with each other, because any sort of gaps could leave a bigger opportunity for someone to get in behind. Now, the problem here is that Joelinton ball carries and actually goes past Maddison in midfield. Now, there's now a lot of space for Newcastle to run in with, and whilst people like Gordon and Isak are offside here, there is players that are onside, such as the winger and Murphy. But Tottenham have lined themselves up where they haven't exactly made that run backwards yet, but they're ready to start running backwards in a defensive transition. And here they make a few mistakes, with Romero going towards, kind of standing his ground with everyone running backwards, which leaves that gap which Josh Murphy exploits and they score from. But also Van de Ven isn't in this team, which he will be against Arsenal, I have to think, where he is a lot quicker at running back than the players they had in this game. Now, this is definitely a way to get at Tottenham, because it still seems like some of their defenders are maybe learning this very intense pressing system, and it is a very high risk, high reward system. If they win the ball back, they've got a lot of players high up the pitch straight away in a counter-attack and transition, but they can also get countered on. And this is why teams like Everton were so easy for Tottenham to beat, because Everton play a low block system a lot of the time. Tottenham could get at them and be able to counter them quite easily, and Everton didn't have the pace to get in behind them at all, so they couldn't actually progress the ball up the pitch, so Tottenham had full control pretty much the whole time. Now, obviously that is a rough idea of how Tottenham may defend in games, but ultimately with the amount of control that they get with their team being so high up the pitch, they have a lot of pressure in games. Now, I wouldn't look too much into the stats just yet this season, because obviously it's only 3 games in and they have played some really weak sides. But last season, when Arsenal went away to Tottenham, it was quite evident that Arsenal played a very counter-attacking system and actually let Tottenham have the ball a lot more. Arsenal definitely focused on a lot of attack and transitions in that game, which we hadn't really done a lot of that season. And okay, we scored twice from corners, which we both got from great moves that we did. But just looking at the stats, we had a lot less ball possession than them. I mean, we had a lot less chances, but overall, you've got to factor in the fact Arsenal were 3-0 up in the first half, so they kind of left off to it a bit and Tottenham had to attack. But this is one of the first times that Arsenal didn't exert full control to win the game. Now, I think if Arsenal are going to go about winning this game, they're going to have to do the same thing. Not only are Tottenham a very aggressive side, very transitional based side, I think Arsenal may have better players now that could be set up for a more transitional system, especially with a lot of main players out, so they kind of have to do that more than control the game. Now, the problem is Tottenham are a very good team on the transition, and they do very much prioritise wing play. They get their fullbacks very high and they want to work with their wingers to cut inside or even cross the ball into. You expect Solanke probably to be back for this game. This means that Arsenal will want good one-on-one defenders, especially in defence, and they will need people to come back and help. Now, this is why I could expect Timber to play in this game. However, when he has played for Arsenal recently, he has definitely been playing more of a centre mid role than a left back, playing in that double pivot with Partey, which could be used again. Now, there's a couple of ways Arsenal could go about this. They can even play Timber in left back and try and get control with that double pivot with Partey in midfield, which is something we have been doing and did do against Brighton with the 3-2-5 build-up. But in this game, they might know they're not going to get as much control, and maybe get an aggressive defender such as Calafiori, if he is fit, to play in that left back slot could be a very smart idea. Now, there's a risk and reward with Calafiori because he is going to go a bit aggressive. He's a very high progressive player, probably going to get caught out of position sometimes. But with the fact that the Tottenham fullbacks are very much like that as well, maybe he can counteract that and also get Arsenal a bit of benefit. I also think if Calafiori was to play, he kind of helps Arsenal if they want to play a Jorginho and Partey double pivot, which I still think may be a solution. Last year, Arsenal in January and February came up with that double pivot idea, and we came up with Rice and Jorginho, who was very key for our wins against Newcastle and Liverpool. Now, to be fair, that worked a lot more because Rice is a lot more of a runner than Partey or Jorginho, so that is definitely a worry there. But we managed to filter in so Jorginho would only have to do things in a selected area and could also move around in attack to do them great killer balls from deep. If you have Calafiori coming inside, he could potentially offer some defensive legs in there, but it might leave Arsenal exposed in a wing position where Tottenham do like attacking, especially from the right where Calafiori will be defending the left side. They do like coming inside a lot, so maybe that could be benefit as we could get Gabriel and our centre-backs could come over to cover that inside run. And I've seen a lot of people also discuss the fact that Timber could play in that double pivot midfield to start and Calafiori could play as a left back. This gives you the best of both worlds. Timber has better legs than Jorginho and good passing still, and has basically been playing centre mid for Arsenal anyway this season, and you can get Calafiori to play left back where he can overlap more importantly and get Arsenal in that transitional threat, which we definitely need against Tottenham. Now, I don't think Arteta will do this. I think he will just play Timber in left back because Calafiori's debut probably won't happen just yet, and I think it's much more likely you see a Jorginho and Partey double pivot, but we have to have players cover for them if we're going to do that. And the first solution I think to covering that, it depends on the attacking midfield role. Now, I personally think given Arsenal's situation with Odegaard injured, the best player for that right centre mid spot is probably Bukayo Saka. Now, some people are going to be very confused about that because he is obviously a brilliant winger, but Saka is a very adaptable player, and everywhere he's played he seems to do a great job. He's a great ball carrier, he can be very physical in the tackle, but he's also a very good passer, and maybe in that right centre half space he's actually going to get more space than he usually does to cut in and shoot. However, the most important thing about that position I think is more the pressing. Out of the possession side we are one of the best, and Odegaard is the main trigger for that to happen. He's the one that presses first, and in the past we've seen people like Havertz follow him, even though recently he hasn't really been doing it as much as that. Havertz could definitely start the trigger, so if you were to play him in that right centre mid spot, I don't see the end of the world. Or make it an attacking midfield spot, let's say with a double pivot with Partey and Jorginho. Havertz can be that trigger as a secondary striker behind someone else. Now, this works if the players around him are going to press with him very smartly. I think Saka could definitely do it, but there's definitely questions on if he could shadow mark two people at the same time, because he hasn't really done it on the wing where you only really get one-on-ones, and that would leave Havertz to have to do a lot of the pressing just generally. Now, Arsenal could play a bit of a sit-off system where they wait for Tottenham to see what they're going to do and then counter them, which I definitely think is a solution if you're going to play Jorginho and Partey, because you can't trust them to really press. I think in this game Havertz could play up front because I think his physical level needs to be up against the defenders, but I also think if you played him in secondary striker just behind the centre forward, I don't think that's really going to limit him in many ways. If you can still get that running out of him, you can still get him up against the defenders winning duels, especially we're going to be doing a lot of long balls I have to feel in this game. Getting him to head the ball down to some of the wingers around him to get them through could be very important, whether he's up front or just behind the striker. Now, that's why I have to think that he will probably go for a Partey, Jorginho and Havertz midfield, and it could work in this circumstance. We play a little bit more passive than we're used to, wait for things to happen and boot the ball long to Havertz where he can head the ball, bring it down and put people through while also making deep runs. You can still have Saka out on the right where he can obviously exploit the space that Tottenham will give him. They give wingers space on transition. If we can get the ball quickly out to him like we scored the goal last year against Tottenham, he will have that space to attack with. And if Gabriel Jesus is back, I think this definitely will happen. Put him up front, he can be that physical factor as well and he can get into the right positions. But if he's not fit, I wouldn't even be against putting Martinelli there. Maybe put Martinelli up front in that centre forward role where he can get into space. He's very good at quick on transition, which is going to be important in this game. And now we can have the factor of playing Sterling on the left, on the right, switching them up in game where he can also be that transitional threat. Now, I could see Trossard starting, but I think he should probably not in this game. I think he'll be better later on in the game where Arsenal maybe need a goal or need something electric to happen. But I think for the start, our quickest players need to be playing. So I personally would start Sterling if it's on either wing and Saka in midfield, or if it's on the left and Martinelli up front. Now, I think the key thing here is that the team that I have suggested gives us a lot of flexibility in changing positions and roles within the game, which I think is very important for what Arteta does in generally and in this game more importantly, where we can have people move into different positions at all times and sort of create spaces. Now that Odegaard isn't there, I actually think it does free up Saka in many ways. Even if Saka starts on the right, I could see him coming into the centre a lot more in game situations to help people get the progression up or to get space in there where we're not going to have someone occupy that the whole time, because I expect us to probably play a deep double pivot and an attacking midfielder, maybe being Havertz or someone else. And I do think we have options now. We could play Sterling on either side and he doesn't really lose that ability. He is very good on transition, very quick, great dribbler player from deep as well. We've got Trossard who can come on and be that guy in the box when you need a goal later on in the game, maybe. Another direct player like Sterling that I think is needed. And of course, Waneri, like I haven't said him in this video because I don't think he should start or will start for his first Premier League game, but he definitely could come on in this game and probably should, given what happens within the game state. If Arsenal are looking for a goal late on, he is a brilliant player to bring in that attacking midfield position. You'd move Havertz up front. And of course, he is so young, but there's a lot of belief around the club with him. They've definitely promoted him very early. So I do think that he will play a role in these games, which is very key for his development going into the future. Now, this Tottenham game was always going to be tough, and I think Arteta was going to change the system up anyway for this game like he did last year in many senses. But with the miss of Odegaard and obviously Rice who's suspended, it's going to be a bigger task than usual. However, I think this gives a great opportunity for Arteta to find new solutions around the players without him, and gives a lot of good roles for new players to come in, or gives the team a lot more balance overall. I know some people are very happy with the Odegaard injury, which obviously I am not, but it will be very interesting to see where Arsenal go with this into the future and see how we do survive the next few weeks, because it's not all doom and gloom, that's what I will say, especially when we've got key players still there. Thank you guys for watching. Let me know what you think in the comments, and if you like this video, please like and subscribe for more. I'll see you in the next one.